Oh my God, you guys. So this is something that I had just thought of a couple of days ago because I'd hearkened back to it. As a matter of fact, well, now I just thought of this commercial because it was a commercial that really stuck with me throughout my childhood, but I think I only saw it a couple of times. And it came out around the same time that Star Wars came out, around 1977. It's actually a Levi's ad. It's a Levi's trademark from 1977. And anybody of my Gen X, hippiositude generation, please tell me if you remember this commercial or if you've seen it. This commercial to me was so otherworldly, and like every time I go back and watch it, I feel like I'm back in the 70s. I mean, I think that's way with most things from the 70s, because most things from the 70s seem alien and like otherworldly and like somebody described things from the 70s as like part genius and part train wreck waiting to happen. And you just didn't know which way it was gonna go, because it had like part of the leftover psychedelicness of the 60s, but then it had part of the really day-glow materialistic capitalistic aspirations. Well, of course our country's always had that, but it sort of had like the 1980s me generation also popping up. So it was kind of like one arm was stretching back to the psychedelic 60s and the other arm was stretching forward to the more practical conservative 80s. And that's why the 70s was so fascinating to me. But regardless, I want to play you this commercial because it has so much and everything to do with my first memory that I knew was just... It was like a memory rift. It was like going back and looking at something and knowing that's not the way you saw it the first time. So here goes. And you probably won't be able to hear it very well, but whatever. You get the picture. I'll leave the link down in the description section. So now these silver people, pay close attention to them because I'm going to address them later. The silver people were very arresting to me. We'll see all the little kids. The window shopping. They make a joke about window shopping. I think the guy narrating this is Ken Nordine. He was like a Saturday Night Live. Like, I think he... Oh, here are the guys. Oh, the guys are my favorite part. You can tell they're dancers. You can tell they're male dancers just by the way that one guy on the right-hand side moves. So graceful and lithe. Ooh, but this is my favorite part of the ad. Because, of course, as I told you, Star Wars had just come out. There we go. Okay, so that's the Levi's trademark brand. Oh, and I love the rose at the end. I think that's my favorite. Red roses are my favorite. Okay, so going back to the beginning of this, I'm just going to talk again while we watch it. But the thing that was so crazy to me is when you see these silver people, and this also relates to the Mandela effect. Upon looking at these silver people, I actually don't remember them looking quite like ghosts of silver people past. Like, in other words, not ghosts of silver people past present. I remember them looking more like C-3POs. And I don't remember any of this, like the clouds and the women or anything like that. Or the guys playing hopscotch on the calculator, which is just weird and psychedelic in and of itself, like a bad dream from the 60s and also then the corporate 80s. But what I do remember is this. I don't remember the rainbow on the ground. What I remember is the silver C-3PO people. And they were silver, which is funny because C-3PO's leg is now silver. But what I remember most is the silver C-3PO people walking on this weird sidewalk, like futuristic sidewalk with no rainbow colors down below. I don't remember the bubbles. See, this is where it gets weird because I don't remember all these details, and normally I would have remembered at least something like this. But in any case, I remember the C-3PO style people walking on this futuristic kind of moving sidewalk, no bubbles, no rainbow with stars above them, and it so had me relating to Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back. So this is what I call my first memory rift, and I remember being fascinated by YouTube when it first came out, around 2008 when we were still on MySpace. And I remember watching this commercial again for the first time, just looking up Levi's commercial 1977. And when I found this is what I consider my first Mandela affected memory rift, because it was so vastly different from what I remember from my childhood. And I was 38 years old at the time, mind you, so it took me 38 years to have what I call a vast, diverse memory rift. So what I'm trying to say is, I guess when you consider your memories, and I know the human memory is fallible, but usually in more subtle ways. I mean, this is a huge and different way. So I consider this my first potential Mandela affected memory rift in 2008. So what I want to know from you guys is, what was your first Mandela affected memory rift? Like, in other words, something that arrested you so much that you know, or you really feel in your gut, that it was totally different the first time that you saw it. Mine was spanned from 1977 to 2008, and of course I didn't hear about the Mandela effect until 2016, so it would be another 8 years from the turn of the century, which is kind of interesting in and of itself. I'm sure there's some symbolism there, but that was really fascinating. And another question I have to ask you is, does anybody know if there's a website where I can get, speaking of futuristic space age stuff, does anybody know if there's a website where I can get weather reports from other planets, like on Mars, Venus, Pluto? Because I think it would be really interesting to measure what the weather's like on other planets and see what we're experiencing on Earth, like how it affects us. And the last thing I wanted to address is, it's just something that's kind of funny to me. Like, I've been noticing a lot of people lately, when they come to my channel, especially for my biggest viewed video, they come to my channel, and the ones that get so offended because they think that I'm trying to convince them of something, which is hilarious to me. It's like the joke Jerry Seinfeld makes about straight men hanging out with gay men. It's like, straight men secretly think they have very low sales resistance, so that's why they get weirded out about hanging out with gay men. Of course, that was a joke he made in the 90s, but even still, I know it's true today. But regardless, it's just like, I have a feeling that some of these people that are so opposed to the Mandela effect are like so afraid we're trying to convince them that it has to be true for them, or that it's, that it's a true thing. And the point of the matter is I think it's a distinct possibility. I don't know exactly what the Mandela effect is. I've seen too much evidence of it to think that it's not a possible reality, but I'm not trying to convince anybody of it. So please don't get upset that you think I'm trying to make you think a different way. I'm just exploring, hence the name of my channel, Gensploration. In any case, let me know what your first memory rift was, you guys, and also if there's a website that you can find out the weather on other planets. And that's about it. Peace out, happy hump day, and talk soon.